Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom, and this week we're going to look at one of my favorite films. So, if you have not figured out by now that I happen to like Julie Andrews. This is The Sound of Music, and yes, this is my copy. This is one of the things I actually own. I will be doing these Mary Poppins as well, and if you are familiar with this channel, I did the Princess Diaries. So I did those two films. The other thing I want to add with this is I'm probably going to do a bonus video. Again, if you're familiar with my channel, last year I did Cinderella and I did Rodgers and Hammerstein. I mentioned that they originally did it with Julie Andrews. I got a copy. It's in black and white. It's the only thing they can find. So I will review that. And it has an introduction by Julie Andrews. She was the knight version of being knighted by the late Queen Elizabeth. So let's talk about this film. At the end of this video, I will talk about the accuracies of this film to reality. This is not actually, well, kind of, based on kind of actual events. This is actually based on a stage play. Let's put it this way. It's based on a stage musical, which was inspired by Maria von Trapp's autobiography. So, loosely inspired. Very much inspired. The accuracy is like non-existent beyond the like bare bones. So, let's talk about this film. So, in this, the basic concept of this film is it's the 1930s. It's Austria. You have Maria, who's training to be a nun, but she's kind of outlandish. She sings. She likes to be free and out and about, and she's not a quiet, silent, studious nun. And so the abbess sends her to be a nanny to these 7 children who belong to this widowed Captain von Trapp. And he, basically, the children tried to get rid of her. There are 7 of them. There are 2 boys, yes, 2 boys, and then 5 girls. So, you have Liesel, you have Frederick, those are the 2 oldest. Hold on, I'm bringing up the IMDb. I can't remember all of these children's names. Liesel and Frederick are the oldest, if I remember correctly. You have Liesel, you have Frederick. The next one, I think, down from Frederick is, not Marta. Marta's the second youngest. Grell's the younger. You have Brigitte and Kurt, and then Louisa, and then Marta, and then Gretel, who's like 5. So those are the children. And I think at first, trying to think, they put a pine cone under her seat when she's sitting down for dinner. Captain von Trapp is very, very stern. Then a young gentleman who's carrying messages comes and brings a letter to Captain von Trapp. And later, when Maria's in bed, after that, you have the whole scene where Liesel, this is her boyfriend. She is 16 going on 17, which is, again, this song. And then, of course, it starts to rain, and she climbs up into Maria's room, and she helps her change. And then it's under night, the children all come in, and they do, I believe it's Raindrops on Roses is the next song. Because, again, this is a musical, and it's Julie Andrews, so she's singing, and all of the children are singing. And the next, Captain von Trapp leaves. She makes clothing out of her curtains to play for the children, and then they go up into the mountains, and they're singing, and she teaches them to sing. And then the captain comes back with the Baroness. What on earth is her full title? Blah, blah, blah. I can find. That's the abbess. Going down. Baroness on something. It's not. It's not showing on the easy part of. Oh, there it is. Yes, there she's just called the Baroness. So, and this is the woman he's kind of intending to marry, along with a man they refer to as their uncle, who brings in, and then they sing for him. This is the first iteration of them singing where they each, well, no, trying to think what they're singing. I can't remember what they're singing in this. It's not a major song here. And then they sing, I believe they go in and their Uncle Max, that's his name, brings them a puppet show, and they put on a puppet show. And they're singing some old, something about a sheep herder and his sheep. And then they sing Edelweiss. This is the first version. There are a couple of songs where there's two, where they sing two different versions and two different situations. They sing Edelweiss, which is a very, very beautiful song. And then that night they have a ball. The children sing for them where they have their individual little parts, which I can't remember the title of the song, and it's the clock song, where they go cuckoo. And so then after the children go to bed, Maria dances with Captain Von Tramp, and she realizes she's falling in love with him, and she runs away. And then the Baroness leaves because Captain Von Tramp really she realizes he's in love with her, and then the Baroness convinces her to come back, and then they get married. And then this is kind of the intermission. So their wedding, and then you have, as is common in musicals, and particularly the way these films were done, and when you had the VHS tapes, there were two tapes. There were two tapes, which is what we originally had. We had the VHS tapes, and there was an intermission. This was between the two videos. After the wedding, throughout this, Max is trying to get the children to sing in public, and their father is very much against this. So Maria and the captain are now married. She is their stepmother. They are singing, and this is the Auschwitz has happened. So what that means, for those who are not familiar with history, is essentially Austria agrees to become part of the German Empire. They become basically Nazis. The Nazis have taken over, so to speak. So while they're on vacation, while they're on honeymoon, they're on vacation, and of course the Nazis want the captain to be part of their navy, because he was part of the navy. I will get into the history of that when we're done here. So after that, Maria and they come back. Max has signed them up to sing in this massive concert. He is not happy. And Liesel's boyfriend has become part of the Nazi youth. And so he delivers a letter to the captain, which is, of course, the indicator that he's going to be part of he's basically being recruited into the Nazi Navy. So Maria and Liesel do another second version of 16 going on 17, which is different. And then she leaves, and they realize what's going to happen. They realize they're going to leave. They try to sneak out, but they're caught, and they're forced to go to the concert where they sing, and you have two versions. Well, they do sing Do, Re, Mi in the beginning, but then you have two full versions of first, they sing their song where they're cuckooing, and then they sing Edelweiss, it starts off with the captain. Maria comes on, and the children join him because he can't finish the song because he's sad, because he has to leave his country. And then they disappear, and they win the concert, but by that time they've vamoosed. They've gone to the abbey, and they hide, and the nuns hide them. And then they're hiding in the courtyard, and Liesel's boyfriend catches them, and they talk him out of it, and they run, and he blows his whistle, and then they disappear and then you have a reiteration of another song, which is Climb Every Mountain. and they're going up to the mountains. So that is the basics of the film. So the basics of the actual story is okay, it's very, very different. Maria von Trapp, can't remember her maiden name, didn't have the greatest of lives. She was orphaned. And this time she went to the Abbeys because she was a teacher. She was like mentally an elementary school teacher at the Abbey and training to be a nun, and she wanted to be a nun. She taught some of the Von Trapp's children, and then she was pressured into going and looking after and teaching all the children, completely different names, and then she was then pressured into marrying him. They were not in love. She married him for the children, and she was kind of pushed. She wanted to be a nun. Remember, she was a teacher, and she wanted to be a nun. But she was pressured by the abbess and the captain to marry him and take the children. Then what happened is the captain had, what on earth is his name? He referred to him just the captain. German version of George. Georg. I'm mispronouncing this. He'd had his money in a British bank. He moved it to a German bank. The German banking system collapsed. And so they brought in boarders from the local Catholic school. And then a couple things happened besides the Auschwitz. They started teaching abortion, which was common with the Nazis. They were not religious. And again, Georg and Maria and their children were Catholic. It was the priest that was running basically the dormitory that their house had turned into that taught them to sing. And basically, they started teaching abortion in some of the boys' schools. They were in the youngest son's school. The oldest son, by the time they left, had gone to medical school. He was a certified doctor at this time. The children were much, much older. And essentially what happened was the captain got called in. Their son had refused a position that had been vacated by someone who had been Jewish. So they were not in favor of Nazism. Georg was actually a major fascist. They leave that out. He was an absolute fascist. So they leave by train to Italy because they had, the captain and most of his children had Italian citizenship after World War I. He had been born on the coast, not in what we would call Italy now, but he was born in a coastal town, so were the children, and that had been part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So he was Italian, as were the children, so they had citizenship, which was the other reason the Nazis didn't push him as much, and they didn't get as pissed off because he wasn't an Austrian citizen, he was Italian. So they went to Italy. Eventually they went to America. Maria had two daughters and a son by her husband. The daughters were born in Italy. Their son was born in the United States. So he's an American, and he's still here as far as I know. They ended up touring the United States. Unfortunately, I believe that music was all destroyed accidentally in a fire. They toured the United States. They actually went back to Austria briefly before World War II hit. I don't know if they spent World War II. I think they were in the United States. They went to Vermont. And they did tour a little bit. Georg actually died in, I'm trying to think, right after the war. He died in like 45 or something, 45, 46. Their son was very, very young. And various different things happened to the children. And the son, as far as I know, still runs. They have a bed and breakfast or a little hotel in Vermont. So that is what really happened. Again, Georg was a major fascist. They had their children. They escaped by train right before the gates closed. That's what really happened. And again, they were Catholic. They were very, very Catholic. So that's really the end of this video. I love this film. Also, the other kind is Christopher Plummer, who plays the captain, was drunk most of this time and originally actually hated this film. And Julie Andrews drove him crazy, though apparently they stayed friends until his death. And I think he later realized he actually enjoyed the film. But I think he was drunk for most of it. That's the other thing. So this is one of my favorites. It's one of the last major Hollywood musicals. I've had it for years. I love Julie Andrews. It's a great film if you're studying musicals, if you love Julie Andrews, if you're looking for a nice, good, long film to put on with lots of music and Nazis, or if you're wanting to compare it to actual events. But this is based on a Broadway musical, not that is, again, inspired by the events of the Von Trapp family singers. So it never claims to be the real story. It never says that this is actual events. It's inspired by a Broadway musical that was inspired, again, by the actual events. I really do love this. It is very long. I have to look at the IMDb page because these things have a tendency to be decently long. Yeah, it's almost 3 hours. So this is almost 3 hours long, and lots of singing. So I really do love this. This is one of those you want to put it on because you enjoy it. You're looking at musicals as homeschooling families. You're looking at Julie Andrews. You're looking at how they take inspiration from real life. If you're looking for kind of Nazi-inspired World War II films. Again, this came out in, I think, it was the 1960s, wasn't it? Yeah, 65. So this came out in 65. The other funny thing I saw that they originally they were very concerned about doing like the Nazi scenes in Salzburg. And the mayor was like, fine, we already lived through this. The town council was not so much until they showed them, fine, we'll just use stock footage. And they're like, uh-oh. No, please don't do that. That makes us look bad. So, because eventually a lot of the Austrians just welcomed the Nazis because they were German. So, yeah, that made them look bad. So it's like, never mind. We'll just deal with the film sets and have Nazi flags hung up because they're doing a movie. Which I found very funny because, again, the stock footage made them look really, really bad. And they're like, never mind. History sucked. No, I'm going to do this. So, but it's a great, fun, very, very musical film. And I think one of the last major Hollywood film musicals until they died out for a while, except for, I think, Cabaret. So that is the end of this video. If you like what you see, I am doing a bunch of musicals this year. I have done more Julie Andrews. I am going to do that bonus video on that Cinderella thing, probably around the time I do this video, or Mary Poppins, one of the two. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm covering a couple of other musicals as well as children's musical books and a wide variety of things. Go through my channel. I cover all sorts of themed months. I'm covering the Princess Diaries. I'm covering the Gardens of Ga'Hoole. I do lots of series. That's particularly especially down here in 2023, moving into 2024. I already have plans going on in my head. So be sure to check out the rest of the channel. So like and subscribe. Thank you.